All right, so we have some really interesting news coming from Naughty Dog. Of course, many people have been worried for a while at the lack of games coming to the PS5. Specifically, if you don't know the background as to why that is, the previous Sony executive pushed almost all their studios to make essentially Fortnite games of their franchises. And so things like Spider-Man were supposed to have an online-only game that would have gone into the different Spider universes that we've seen the leaks for of what that would have looked like. The Last of Us had one that was similar. And when that executive left the company, pretty much everybody looked at those games and went, these aren't games we want to be making, and we don't really believe in them. And so we should do the games we actually feel confident about, which has left the PS5 in a dire situation of feeling like there's not that many games. Now, to pick up on today's story, a lot of people have been wondering about The Last of Us and Naughty Dog. We've had Neil Druckmann essentially confirm that they've been working on two different games. One that's an original IP, that's something that's completely new, and one that is The Last of Us Part 3. And for a long time, we know that Naughty Dog was working on a Last of Us Factions 2, that Sony really wanted them to take Factions, which was in the first Last of Us game. It was a cool, really fun online multiplayer experience, and make it into essentially the Fortnite for Last of Us, where it could be this giant thing with a bunch of different seasons, and it was going to have its own story, and it was going to be really complex. And that's what they were forced to work on, and they worked on it for a long time. And eventually, when that CEO left, like I said again, it got scrapped because Sony didn't believe in it anymore. Naughty Dog didn't believe in it. They want to be making single player story-based games, not having to run for years and years and years and years a bunch of different seasons for this online thing, which is what PlayStation would have required them to do. And so because of that, many people have been worried that we aren't going to be getting a Naughty Dog original game for the PS5 generation. And we have some news coming straight from Naughty Dog that says that that might be the case. So let's dive into it. So Naughty Dog has posted a job posting. They've been posting a lot of job postings actually as of recent, but one specifically for senior producer. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially someone who's going to oversee the production of a game. And I'm going to link this down below if you want to go look at it or apply. I guess the salary they say, if you're qualified, is between $133,000 to $241,000. So, you know, they pay you pretty decent if you want to apply and see if you get the job. But the thing that's really interesting about this is that these are the kind of people who lead the production on a game. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, what's the big deal? They have that original IP going. They're working on The Last of Us Part 3. It makes sense they're going to bring on someone to kind of oversee it. There's all kinds of rotation while games are being made, so this isn't that big of a deal until you read more into the post. And I want to say that this could be nothing. Maybe they'll have a game this console generation, but it's looking like maybe they'll only have one. So if you read the job kind of description, they summarize what Naughty Dog is. They're like, oh, it's working great. We've gotten rid of crunch, all those different things. We love crafting stories. And then they say, and here's the quote, "We're looking for an experienced senior producer to join us in the studio and elevate our team's capabilities. We are looking for the right candidate to get in early and help define the processes, requirements, and infrastructure that will support the project," which is the game they're talking about, "through launch and beyond. In this role, you'll have a significant impact on the way we work, both within the game team and the production team, by leveling up the skills we apply to the production of our games, as well as the structures we work within," end quote. Now, the thing that I really tried to emphasize there for you to recognize is that for this position, they're saying they want whoever they hire to get in early on the production of this game, meaning that this game is in early production. And the bad news about this is that I think that we've been mildly deceived by Naughty Dog and Sony as to how big of a deal The Last of Us Factions 2 actually was. By the looks of things, it looks like that was the thing they're working on, that their entire studio in large part was working on that Factions 2 thing, which makes sense. It had its own story, so you had the story people working on it. You probably had actors who have already filmed the entire thing, people rendering those scenes, working on those scenes, working on the gameplay, working on the mechanics and the different seasons and the different ideas. And then on top of that, they were remastering part 1 and part 2, which people were like, what a waste of time. But it wasn't. Naughty Dog's actually been really smart. If you looked into why they've remastered those games, it's not just for a quick cash grab. It's actually how they've been training new employees to work in the Naughty Dog world, and so that they understand their systems and structures and how they make games in a way that's not very harmful if things go wrong, that it's easy for them to learn, so that way they can be onboarded later on in the process and be like, okay, you're ready now, you've worked on this remaster for a bit, you've got the ropes, let's move you forward. And so all their new employees were kind of working on those remasters, and the more experienced ones were working on Factions 2. And it seems like with the cancellation of that they're starting at ground 1. And to me, that lines up with what we heard at the end of the Grounded 2 documentary. If you saw that, Grounded 2 was a documentary on the making of The Last of Us Part 2. And at the end of it, Neil Druckmann said that he has an idea for The Last of Us Part 3. He's figured out what it is, and he's starting to work on it, which means that The Last of Us Part 3 is an early production at the very least, where they've got the ideas or the outline and they're starting to work on it, which means all of the other stuff that comes with making a game has probably not even started yet. And by the sounds of all the rumors that we've been hearing about this new IP, is that is also something new as well. And so this senior producer they're hiring into either that new IP or The Last of Us Part 3 very early in its development cycle. Now, the worrying thing about this is that the last game they made that was like originally done took them 7 years to make from when the last one came out. That, of course, was The Last of Us Part 2. That game came out in 2020, and The Last of Us originally came out in 2013. It took them 7 years to work on that. And that was when Naughty Dog was willing to crunch, that they crunched employees and made them work insane hours to get that thing done. And as we know now, Naughty Dog has gotten rid of crunch. And what does that mean? It means that employees don't get abused by their workplace, but it also means that you can't force people to work really hard and get this game done in 7 years. It might take 10. It might take 9. It might take 7. It might take 6. But the odds of that are pretty low unless they're making a smaller scale game like the first Last of Us. And so this is rather worrying. I think, and I've still predicted this and still feel this, that we will get The Last of Us Part 3 at the end of the PS5 cycle. My guess is 2027. But reading this puts it into doubt for me, where I'm like, will we? I don't know. And it's just crazy to me that we might be getting an entire console generation without a original Naughty Dog game that's just for the PS5 alone, was created for the PS5, that wasn't a remaster. It sounds like that Factions 2 would have been that, and that because that's got scrapped, that might mean that we won't get a Naughty Dog game until the PS6. I'm still holding on to hope that the pattern that they've set is still going to be the precedent, that for these Last of Us games, what they do is they push the system they're on to the max, and then they come out with a remastered version almost immediately for the next console. So for The Last of Us, the first one, it came out at the very, very, very end of the PS3 life cycle. It pushed it to its limits, and then immediately when they launched the PS4, they came out with a remaster, better version for that game. And then the same thing for The Last of Us Part 2. They waited till the very, 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 very end of the PS4 life cycle, and they pushed the PS4 to its limits. Again, The Last of Us Part 2 looks better than most PS5 games. And then they come out with a remaster for the PS5. And so my hope is that they follow that pattern. I would assume that that would be their goal, but if they're not going to crunch, they can't guarantee it. And that they release The Last of Us Part 3 at the very, 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 very end of the PS5 life cycle, push it to its limits, conclude the story where you can get all 3 games on the same console. Because this is supposed to be the conclusion to Ellie's story, and so you'd have her trilogy all on the PS5 hardware, all working on the same console. You push it to its limits, and then you can release a bundle with a remastered version of that third game for the PS6, where you can get the Last of Us trilogy. That would be my hope, but man, I don't know if they can do it. 2027 is probably the end of the PS5, and I just don't see how in a matter of, like, they've probably been working on it for at least a year, maybe 2, how in 4 to 5 years you can release a game without any crunch at the scale of The Last of Us and make that 2027 date. I have no idea, but that's enough rambling. It's not great news, but I want to know what you think. Does this worry you? Do you think we're not going to see a Naughty Dog game until the PS6? What do you think that new IP is going to look like? Do you think that this isn't worrying? Do you think that maybe they've been working on either the new IP or The Last of Us Part 3 for longer than they're letting on, and that The Last of Us Part 3 or that new IP will be available on the PS5, but whatever this game is will be a PS6 game? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that junk, and I will see you guys in the next one.